Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another episode of Boards and Brews, and today I am joined by Daniel from the Dungeon Dive, which is one of the few channels that I'm not gonna say I religiously watch because he puts out a lot of content. So no one's got time for all that. But that I watch regularly, especially when it comes time for me to buy a new dungeon crawler. So I'm excited to have him here. But before I let him talk, we're going to launch right in with the rapid fire questions that everybody gets the first time on. And that is, who the crap are you? What is your shtick? How and why did you get started into board game media? And what is your brewed beverage today?
It's a lot of questions. So, all right,
Rapid fire, look,
who am I?
this is not a game, man. This is serious.
Serious. Okay, this is serious business. All right. Well, yeah, I'm Daniel. I started the Dungeon Dive about 5 years ago as a kind of a digital museum dedicated to the kinds of games, adventure games, dungeon crawls, and tabletop RPGs that I love. I've been playing hobby games since the early 80s, since I had to sneak over to my friend's house to play the very satanic game Dungeons and Dragons.
No.
Yes, I sold my soul to Satan back in I think '84.
Boy,
So
did he get a
and
bad end of that
oh
deal.
man, it's been successful ever since. Just rolling in money, all of that fame and rock star status I got from selling my soul. So no, but yeah, so I've been going through different phases of video games, board games from D&D to more traditional board games like Talisman, and then on through like Space Hulk and that kind of stuff, and then back to tabletop RPGs, and then collectible card games, and then Euro games, and now whatever I'm doing now on the Dungeon Dive. And so, what am I drinking today? I am drinking coffee because it is still before noon here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. It's the same for me. It's funny. The last episode that we did, we actually had to record at 7:30 a.m. And one of the guys, God love him, he thought that he had to be at my house, and so he was going to get up at 6 a. He's like, I was going to get up 6 a.m.
To go
I
to
was
your
gonna,
house?
yep. He's like, I was going to drive because he's like an hour away. He's like, I'm going to drive down. We'll pick up some beers on the way. And I was like, oh my god,
No, man. There's technology.
if you had shown up at my door at 7:15 in the morning with beer, I'd have not been happy. I mean, I'd love the dedication, but not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just coffee for me as well, and I'm drinking out of my Omicron Protocol mug.
What is that? What is Omicron Protocol?
Well, I'm glad you asked because that takes us right into
Oh, hey, segue. Nice.
I know that, and I didn't intend that one, but that
I
was good. I'm proud of it. So uh, we're going to jump into. So, what have you been playing lately? And then, what is kind of the next game on the table for you? So, the first one, and notice way, I have not actually played a lot of games this past week. It was my wife's birthday, and she plays a lot of games with me. But gaming is not her passion,
Mhm.
and so we
Yeah.
didn't play a lot of games this week. We did play a couple. So a lot of these are actually from Omicron Protocols from the previous week. And so Omicron Protocol, for anybody who doesn't know, it's a miniatures skirmish game,
Mhm.
small armies, small units. So the biggest game you can play is 4 models per side,
I like that, yeah.
and it's this they call it intra-apocalyptic. Like you're in the middle of the apocalypse going on, or it's kind of at the beginning stage of the apocalypse.
Okay, so not post-apocalyptic, not pre-apocalyptic, but
We're in
s
it,
smack
yeah, right,
dab in the middle.
yeah. And so the funny thing about this game is what's happened in the world is some kind of virus has come out of nowhere, it's taken over, it's locking down cities, and this was funded or what was trying to deliver right as COVID hit.
Mhm.
People are like, that's really insensitive of you to have a game about this. Like, we didn't know. And they used to actually use hashtag Omicron as their
Yeah,
thing.
the Omicron variant,
And
yeah.
then that came
Yeah, you
out,
got
and they're at PAX, and people were coming by taking pictures. They thought it was just like a joke that they were doing. Like, no, it's our game. Please buy our game. I can't buy that. That's very insensitive of you.
my wife started reading, Stephen King's The Stand about 3 months before, January 2020.
So it's her fault.
Yes. So, yeah.
I'll tell the Omicron guys they're off the hook. They'll be thrilled. But so in any event, so there's everyone's locked down in this one city. And it's these factions kind of battling out in this city, and it also has a pretty robust solo modes because the big kind of core is there is this neutral third party in the game. So if we're playing competitive, they got all kinds of crazy scenarios you can
Yeah,
play.
you can go against them.
Yeah, well, no,
Yeah.
they're neutral in the middle, and so when you activate, they will be pulled towards you by the noise and stuff that you make.
Oh, cool, cool.
But after your turn, whichever ones are going to activate, I get to choose what they do to you, and then you choose what they do to me. So you're kind of balancing fighting them, fighting each other. And there's also solo mode that you can do where you just kind of battle it out in the scenario, but just against these. They're like cyber zombies, really. They're, not quite. There's this massive lore that goes with it, which is kind of one of the things that attracted me to it. Like this is their lore book.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like if you're just listening, this is like a college textbook.
Yeah, that's
It's
like
not
an
like the
old Games Workshop lore book there.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's not like the calculus textbook, but it's it's a big one. It's they have all these stories, so it's a deep lore. Anyhow, I like this game, and I've covered it a lot, but I'm really bad at it. Like I can do the solo mode in the cooperative solo mode. I can do that pretty well, but playing against people, I'm terrible.
Is it miniatures agnostic? Can you use any minis that you
No,
have?
they all come in the box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you get the 2 factions and all the sims they're called come in the base box. And
Hmm.
then there's, 2 more factions you can get in a smaller box.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, each faction I think has 8 characters you can choose from, and you play a max of 4 each game. And
Is
they
there
actually
is there a
they
progression from game to game? Do you level up your characters and that kind of thing?
no, you don't. So they're all one-offs, though, I actually talked with them a while ago, and we played around with it of creating something a little bit like that of a kind of a chaining scenarios together. If you win this, in the solo mode, so if you win this one, then you go do this one, this scenario, and this is the bonuses you that kind of thing. So it's actually percolating, but it's mostly one shots, one offs. Which, as we were talking about before we started this, sometimes having just one shots is what I
Yeah.
need instead of
I like to
long
have the
campaigns.
option. I love a lot of these new miniatures agnostic narrative skirmish games. Forbidden Psalm is like masterful. I think Forbidden Psalm is one of my favorite games now. And just being able to throw together a little war band of 4 or 5 minis, any minis you want, works really well. And stuff like 5 Leagues from the Borderlands and the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms is really good too, especially if you have a lot of fantasy minis laying around. You can just knock
Yeah,
those
I
out, and
just
they're fun.
backed well, not just a few months ago now, but, I forget what it was called, but basically it's generic fantasy creatures, but they're acrylic tokens.
Oh yeah,
It's
like
like top down,
oh, they're
like
top down. Nice. Yeah.
yeah, so they're
They're
not,
discs.
yeah, but
Are
they're
they
like shaped
discs?
but yeah, they're like discs or, shaped like that. It was good art on it, but they're not standees, so they just
Hmm.
lay flat.
Yeah.
So that's I'm gonna use those as often as I can because I'm the weird guy. Like I like the tokens. Like lay them flat for me. Give me my minis for my heroes or a nice acrylic standee. But the
I
rest,
like yeah, I prefer
mm,
standees on everything. I've got a pretty big collection of I don't know where they are right now, but Pathfinder pawns,
mhm.
and I use those for all of my skirmish games. I play my skirmish games basically in 2D. I don't use terrain. I use like Loke battle mats.
Mhm.
It works
Yeah.
fine. You don't have to have a lot of stuff to get into these new skirmish games.
No,
A
no,
lot of
that's
them are
the
really low barrier to entry, and since so many of us have so much board game stuff already that we can use in other games, all you need to really buy is a rule set.
yeah. I've got one of those just kind of a PDF that someone bought for me, just sitting there to try. I think it's Lasting Tales, which at some point I want to try.
Lasting Tales, yes,
Yeah,
that came out not too long ago, I
yeah.
think.
So someone sent me that, and so maybe I'll try it when I get all the stuff. But so I played this game a lot because the designers are local. That's how I got connected with them to begin with, and they do tournaments up at game store in San Francisco. I don't know, once a month, and it's just 8 people, whatever, how many people show up, and he's always asking me to come. And
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but I hate driving to a big city. I hate it.
Especially San Francisco. That's a nightmare city to drive in.
Yep, I just and it's not close and parking, and so I'm like I'm like,
How far
"Hey,"
away from San Fran are you?
well, without traffic, an hour.
Yeah, okay. So
With
I'm
traffic,
from yeah, I'm
2.
from Fresno, so
Okay.
Central California, and we used to take road trips to San Francisco, but we would always park on the outskirts and just kind of wander in on foot. But yeah, driving through San Francisco is
It's horrible.
it is horrible.
And I'm always I'm like, no, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I love you guys, but I'm
Finding
not
parking.
doing that. Yeah. But then my wife heard me talking to him. She's like, well, I kind of wanted to go up to San Francisco and see some museums. How about I just drop you off? And so I'm like, so what I told Bernie before that, I was like, so you want me to drive into the city, pay money to get my ass kicked at this game all day? Is that what you're pitching to me? He's like, yeah,
That sounds
yeah,
fun.
yeah. But suddenly I lost. So I went, I did, and it was the benefit. They gave me my copies of their newest little expansion. They have these like cross faction characters now. Like this character you can play in two different factions.
Oh, cool.
Like because it works thematically with both. They have one, the other one's a freaking lizard. Like it's a Komodo dragon. Like it's a freaking lizard is the other one. But whatever. So I was able to pick those things up. I'll be damned if I didn't get third place in that tournament. And I
Hey,
was,
you placed, man.
and what I
Most
realized was,
excellent.
yeah, I realized it's because I always play against the damn designers. Like that's why I get my ass kicked all the time. Because I'm playing against masters, like against normal people, I got a shot. So it like really has opened my mind to because I liked it. I think it's one of the best skirmish games out there. It's crunchy and heavy, but I didn't want to play it much because I'm like I'm just so bad. Like
Yeah,
it's like
I say all the time, I'm terrible at games. Like I don't like difficult games because I'm very, very bad at board games. And so yeah, playing competitively against somebody in a skirmish game sounds to me about like maybe one of my least favorite things I could imagine.
yep, that's what I thought. But man, yeah, but so I actually had fun with it. So I'm really so now I'm like, oh man, I gotta bust back out the solo. I gotta like practice now. You know,
Yeah, get your strategy down. Did you ever play Earth Reborn?
no, I don't even know if I've ever
Yeah,
heard that.
Earth Reborn was a really cool head-to-head skirmish game. It came out early 2000s, I believe, maybe mid 2000s, maybe around 2008 or so. But it was in a board game box, kind of like the size of Space Hulk, very similar to Space Hulk in many ways. But it was a really neat skirmish game. Had very small factions. I think one side was four and the other side was six, kind of asymmetrical. It did a really good job of teaching the rules through gameplay, and it had kind of like Tannhauser. Did you ever play Tannhauser from? I think Fantasy Flight put Tannhauser out.
No, I didn't. So I got back into board games. I don't know, or into board games like 5, 6 years ago. For a while, I was playing like Pathfinder for a little
Hmm.
bit,
Yeah,
and then prior to that, I played in Magic the Gathering and Warhammer Fantasy back
yeah.
in middle school, and that was like my entire thing. And then I fell back into it, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of fun
There's a
stuff.
lot of stuff out. Yeah, Tannhauser was really cool because it completely eliminated any ambiguity regarding line of sight because you played these skirmish games on a board and the boards had circle spaces where you could move your characters to and the spaces were color coded. And so you could have line of sight from any space that matched the color that you were on.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that's what
yeah, super
Unmatched does. That I
un
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
Unmatched. I think Unmatched was highly inspired by Tannhauser. But
yeah.
Tannhauser had a really cool theme because it was weird World War II. So, you had these like World War II, you had like the Nazi zombie occult side, and they were all evil, and then you had like the good guys, the Allies fighting against the Axis, and it was really cool, really neat game, kind of ahead of its time. It would probably do really well right now if it came out again.
It's funny. That's the kind of thing. And actually, I'm going to talk about another game that's going to kind of latch onto that in a bit. But you latched onto like the main thing why I never play historical war games because like
Hmm.
I don't want to be the Nazis. Like even if
Yeah.
there's zombies, I don't want to be the I feel like that's better. Like I'd rather be a zombie Nazi. Ew.
We've been playing. My buddy and I've been playing through. My mind just blanked. The big deck building war game that's super popular right now. Undaunted. Undaunted.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man, what a brilliant game Undaunted is. One of if they made fantasy Undaunted, I would be all about that. But yeah, I feel
That is
that
exactly what I said about that.
yeah.
Or
But
even make it sci-fi. Like I like sci-fi far less than fantasy, but I sure
but
make
we've
it
had yeah.
undaunted Normandy planet. 2478. Like,
Yeah,
sure.
it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, that's what I've heard
But
of.
I've been playing the Jerry's, and it's fine. I don't mind. I don't have to, when you're in the trenches, when you're just a soldier, like
Oh yeah.
like the soldiers, they don't have to necessarily believe in all the terrible crap. The soldiers on all sides of war are just getting used and abused, right? So kind of put yourself in like that situation where, okay, I'm just playing this soldier who's been drafted into this terrible war. So okay,
I'm gonna
I
give
can
it
play the Germans.
19 minutes from the publishing of this video that someone's on Dungeon Dive saying Daniel's a Nazi.
Yeah.
Like
Hey,
it's
I
coming.
people call me all kinds of things on the Dungeon Dive. Recently, I just got my all-time favorite negative comment.
Ooh, that's good. Oh, because I got a really good negative one recently too. I'm curious.
Let
We'll
me
give 'em a quick share here.
let me log in real quick and read this comment. I pinned it. Whenever I get really negative comments, I always pin them to the top so people can see.
That's funny.
So this guy says, I'm really not a fan of your channel. Don't know how this crap came up in my feed. Frankly, it's pathetic a grown person spending their time on these fantasy games. Sincerely hope you get demonetized and taken down. Maybe then you would have to take a hard look at your life.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, isn't that great? And
Like
then
you should get you can you need to print that out and put it on your wall.
on a shirt or
Yeah.
something.
Oh, on a shirt. That'd be so good.
And then
Wow.
and then later on, he goes on to like people were responding to this pinned post saying like, "Okay, whatever, dude." And then he follows up later on with, "Somehow I paid YouTube to have my video show up in his feed." So yeah.
Oh, well, I guess the marketing worked. I don't know. So actually, I got a two-pointer. We're not gonna cover the what we're supposed to cover at all in this episode, which is fine. So I had one recently. So at the beginning of my thing, I had the that looks tasty. Chomp, 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 chomp. Very
Oh
cartoon.
yeah,
Chomp, chomp, chomp.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
super cartoon. Somebody left things. Like, there are 18% of people in the world
I,
really don't like that sound. It's very. I was just
I
like,
saw that. I saw that comment. I was on the League of Dungeoneers, I think, wasn't it?
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
was like,
read that comment. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, I'm not your channel. I'm so sorry. Like, or it's always the first 6 seconds of the video. You can always skip that if you like. But
Yeah, he said the sound, like, made him physically sick or something, and he would
yeah,
vomit or so like, it was very
yeah.
extreme. It was a very extreme reaction,
In
but yeah.
retrospect, I wish I'd been like, would you record yourself vomiting because of that sound? Because I'll post it. I'll post that instead of the chomp chomp sound at the beginning. Uh, but talking about bad comments and stuff. So this doesn't come close to your thing, but talk about the marketing works. So I worked with Fight in a Box Games. They have a game on GameFound right now called Conquest Princess, which is the craziest ass game you've ever seen. It's a crisis management game, like a pandemic style,
Mhm.
but it's Voltron meets high fashion,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
it's and so you lose if you ever run out of things to wear.
Mhm.
Fashion is power, and whatever. And it's got all these Easter eggs like Space Invaders, or sorry, Invaders from Space, which is absolutely nothing like Space Invaders,
Mhm.
and the Mechapede, which is absolutely nothing like the Centipede, and all that kind of stuff going on. But so it's a very much celebrating different styles of living. So all the characters are female or trans or non-binary. All the heroes are, and it's very much clear. It's he's a Asian American gay man who's making these games that he makes, and there's rainbows and everything on there. And so the ad is out. One of the adverts on Facebook, and I looked at one. I took a screenshot. I sent it to the guy. It's like, what does this mean? There was a flag that was black and white stripes. That's all someone posted, and I didn't know what the heck that means. Apparently, that is a straight pride flag.
Oh, nice.
Which that led to a whole thing. So I told the guy, I was like, "You're an asshole." I was like, "Seppi, you should delete this stuff," But wait till I tell him he's an asshole. I did that first, but then Seppi told me, he said, "The funny thing about that is it probably means that person's probably a gay man. I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, because the targeting he has set up on the Facebook ad is if you're a fan of his company, you'll see it. A lot of women see it because he has it set up there too, and the gay community. And I was like, I wish you had told me that before we deleted it because that is hilarious.
Yep.
I want to be, what are you clicking on, sir?
Yeah.
I'm all
Why
for
are
it.
you getting targeted for
Yes,
that?
I'm all for you living your best life, sir. But let's step back. Anyhow, that's a very long tangent for me to say. I played Omicron Protocol. I found a new love for it, and yeah, and I got these crazy ass new little expansion characters. It's a Komodo dragon with a cybernetic jaw.
Nice.
Like you don't mess around with that, you know.
No,
Uh,
you'll bite you and get like super salmonella or something.
oh yeah, that is one of the powers. So the cool thing it does when you roll your dice, you whatever successes you get to kind of go to this little action shop and purchase what you want. Like maybe
Oh,
you want to
cool.
purchase I do damage, or maybe you want to
Yeah.
purchase I'm going to do a sidestep.
Poison or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, steal like whatever. It's a super cool game. So anyhow, that's the first thing I've been playing lately. What's your first thing that you've been playing lately? Now that we're half an hour into this episode.
I have been really enjoying not really much playing, but experimenting, messing around with, and that's this thing called the Sandbox Generator. And that is from Atelier Clandestine, I believe that's how you say it. This is it's a generator for generating hex crawls and generating hex maps, and it has all kinds of awesome things in it, generating your different biomes and encounters and different factions and how the factions control the different environments that they're in, generating landmarks and and creating dungeons and creating abbeys and just all kinds of really cool stuff. I just got this book about a week ago, and it's already like
Ooh,
all
that
messed up because
I
I
am
have
a
just
school teacher, and
uh,
that is more read than
uh,
some of the books that my students have had all year.
I have been just I can't stop thinking about this book. It is like the best sandbox generator I have ever purchased. And it's been super inspiring. And I'm designing a game, and I'm going to
Uh
use
oh.
a lot of
Uh
the
oh.
stuff in here to kind of design some of the adventure prompts. You know, like I'm making for Dungeon Dive patrons, I'm actually making pre-keyed 19 hex tiles, and the tiles will have different settlements and different dungeons and layers and all kinds of stuff on there, and then those are going to be used in this game that I'm designing uh, to facilitate the beginnings of adventure. And yeah, this is just a fantastic book. It was, I think,
So is it just for like creating a world and then you do
yeah,
something in that world?
yeah.
So like
So
you could
yeah,
then take that and play whatever RPG system you wanted in it.
exactly. Yeah. I'm probably going to be using something else. I'm probably going to be playing it with this little game called Tricube Tales. Tricube Tales is a really cool, very, very simple RPG system that I think would work really well with Sandbox Generator. Tricube Tales is really cool because it is completely genre agnostic, so you can do fantasy, sci-fi, anime, mecha, modern day. You can do all kinds of different things using Tricube Tales. And the really cool thing about Tricube Tales is the designer has released all of these micro settings on these single sheet settings, and they're super varied. So you can be like, you can have a fireman, you can role play as firemen and go out and have adventures putting out fires. You can be eldritch detectives and solving Cthulhu style mysteries. There's a vampire setting. There's a setting where you're a goblin henchman working for like a kingpin goblin criminal mastermind, and all kinds of really cool little things. And the system is super simple. It's like a D6 system, and you can learn it in a matter of minutes. And he kind of designed it to be played with his kids, so it's he wanted to keep the rules light but heavy on the narration and heavy on player interaction and choice and stuff. So these two things are going to be something that I'll be combining together to
You're
get
gonna
some
make a
fun
video
out
on
of.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Definitely on Sandbox Generator will be up, I think, soon, very soon.
Just do another
So
80-part series like you did with Warhammer Quest, so I can just watch the game.
yeah,
That would be good. I got a lot of workouts in watching that
watching those
series.
Warhammer Quests and
Yeah,
the Shadows of Brimstone series. The Shadow of Brimstone series, I think, is even longer than the Warhammer
yeah, that's
Quest
right.
series.
Yeah, I want to play Shadows of Brimstone, but I don't want it in my house.
Yeah, it's so much.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I don't want it in my house. I want to play it. I don't want it. Um, yeah, it's funny you talk about how he designed it with his kids. Like that's how Jerry Hawthorne got started. I mean, not totally. He did a lot, but that's how Mice and Mystics came to be, which I thought was the coolest thing. He wanted a game to play with his kid and help him learn to read. And
Yeah.
oh
Hey,
yeah,
make the game you want to play, right?
yep, love that. All right, so my next one is a Flamecraft, which is the cutest damn game you ever seen. It's just
Yeah, really
freaking
nice art,
adorable.
really charming look
Yeah,
and
and
style.
it's it's one of those, and the game itself, for anybody who doesn't know, the three people who don't know, you are kind of I think that you're called the Flame Keeper, but you're like a dragon recruiter is really what you are. You're trying to place these adorable little dragons in shops in town where they want to work. And the game itself is a recipe fulfillment game. Euro game, worker placement. You got one worker, you got your dragon, you move around the town and you activate these dragons. You get cute little resources, little stakes, and little crystals and little potions and little pieces of toast, and you do these recipes. And it is a purely thinking of the game, it's a solid game. But once you start getting these cute little dragons and you start talking about, oh, I'm gonna activate Herb, the plant dragon, and it just grabs everybody I play with. So I introduced it to some friends who were up from LA, and they like playing Wingspan. Like
Mhm.
that's their jam. They love
Yeah,
it.
that's a good those entry level Euro style games
Yep.
are great. Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, do you have Wingspan?" I was like, "Actually, I don't," because another friend of mine who I tested it with when I reviewed it, she loved it. So I said, "Take this. Like, you love this. You need to own this. Take this." I said, "But we'll try this." And the amount of squeeing that happened while we were playing was crazy. Like we flipped it over, oh my god, that's so cute.
It's so cute. Yeah.
And the one guy, he was every time he's moving his dragon, he's like doing dragon sounds, flying around. We are grown people, but just getting that into it, and they were so excited about it. And I managed to track down a way for them to get a deluxe copy of the game, which is hard to find, and just so excited. And that is why I love that game. I enjoy playing it. Left to my own devices, would I always pull Flamecraft on the shelf? No, but I've never introduced it to somebody that didn't leave talking about it, loving it. I gave them a sheet of stickers of Flamecraft, which they're putting all over all their stuff. That is a magical introductory game.
Oh yeah,
Always love
yeah,
playing it.
yeah. If you can hit that sweet spot with that, when you introduce a game to somebody and they leave wanting to reschedule or wanting to schedule another session,
Hmm.
that's always a good thing.
Yep, it's just super cool. So that was the other one I've been playing recently, Flamecraft. All right, what else you got on there?
Well, I recently let's do. I recently asked. I ran a poll on. Run polls on the Dungeon Dive Patreon every once in a while, see what people want me to cover, and a lot of people surprisingly asked me to cover Hero Quest. So people are like, hey, we should get your opinion on Hero Quest.
Is that's the new one?
Yeah, so this is the new one. This is one of the expansions. So I bought everything for the new
Oh,
Hero Quest.
that's a
Uh,
lot. No wonder
and
you have no space in your.
Yeah, and I have old Hero Quest. I don't want to give too much away because I will be recording some videos, probably a handful. But yeah, I have like no nostalgia for Hero Quest. I was definitely playing hobby games when it was out, but Hero Quest was not ever on my radar. I don't know why, but I just yeah. So I'm kind of approaching Hero Quest as not in a nostalgia mode, but as kind of a new coming to it with a fresh set of eyes and one of the things I'm doing is I'm actually printing out a whole bunch of one of the cool things about Hero Quest is all of these supplements and all of the fan created stuff for it. So I have this huge kind of like printout of all of these
Whoa.
random quest generators and monsters
And
and
that's all fan made stuff
characters.
you got there?
Yeah, this is all, and this is, I mean, this is like 1% of the stuff you can find
So
online,
for
and
those of you who are just listening, you're not
yeah,
seeing that. I don't know. That's
yeah,
got to be
this,
what, 80 pages?
yeah, it's at least 80 pages, 80
Yeah.
pages of printed material that has ways to play solo, ways to generate random dungeons within the Hero Quest map. It has a whole new bestiary, all new items and heroes and powers and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to be kind of approaching Hero Quest as I do almost all games on the Dungeon Dive, and that is from the perspective of a solo player because that's just how I play most of my games. And Hero
Yeah.
Quest is not designed for solo. It's designed for one person to be the bad guys and the other players to be the heroes. So kind of approaching it in a little bit of a different way. But yeah, Hero Quest is neat. It's very basic. I would have preferred the new Hero Quest be more of a spiritual successor. Like that's how I would have approached the design, modernizing it a little bit, maybe adding a couple layers of complexity to it. Because as a game itself, it's maybe basic to a fault.
Mm.
I like very simple games. I like games that are effortlessly easy. I like games that I can get into without a lot of overhead. But Hero Quest might fall just a little bit shy of that and just be kind of maybe too simple.
Does all the stuff you printed out, does that add a little
It
complexity
does,
to
it
it?
does. The stuff I printed out, the stuff you can add to it that the fans have created, I think maybe elevate the game and keep it in the zeitgeist, keep it in people's minds because you can do a lot more with it now. But I mean, people are pretty smart. People will often say, Hero Quest is great for a kids game. But kids are really smart. We have kids in elementary school who are building computers within Minecraft. We have kids who are building their own games within like Roblox and Terraria and are doing things that I could never even dream of as a 50-year-old man. And so when somebody says that, oh, it's a good for a kids game, I don't think they're giving kids enough credit. And
Right.
kids can handle a lot of things. If people who are into video games can pretty quickly adapt to complex board games.
The
We have
amount of
a
stuff that we can do when you play video games and that we just remember
yeah,
is shocking.
yeah. I mean, people will play games on their phone that are far more complex than many board games. So I don't think that's a good excuse of something just being, oh, it's okay for a kids game. I think people should give kids more credit for what they can do in a game, and they might be surprised. But yeah, Hero Quest is a really cool foundation. If you're into gaming, if you're into hobby games, it's a really cool foundation upon which it's very easy to build up from.
Yeah, I've never played that one either, um, and didn't jump in on the new stuff because for the most part, I also only play dungeon crawls solo by myself.
Solo, yeah,
There's a few that my wife will play with me without question. She likes Wander, Cult of Barnacle Bay.
it's a great game. Yep,
Yep, I'd be
super fun
very
game.
excited for the new stuff for that whenever that arrives. And she'll play that. She loves the new one that's coming, Tales from the Red Dragon Inn.
Hmm. I've got
That
that on the way. Yeah.
Oh man, I they let me have the only copy for a couple weeks, and we played through a bunch of it. Did a playthrough video and stuff. That game, it's great.
Cool, cool.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it
gosh.
looks a lot of fun. I like the vibe of that one, just wacky fun and heroes with cool powers and
Yeah, and the story's fun to read too, which is one that I don't know if we started recording yet, but yeah, something that you mentioned. Like the story's fun to read. It's really good. It's really fun. And shockingly, she likes quite a bit Dungeon Alliance.
oh really? That's a brain burner, man.
Yeah, I mean, and so
Yeah.
we don't play it a lot, and I like that game a lot. I really do. It's but boy, it's a lot going, and it is long.
Mhm.
I mean, we set a 2 weeks in advance. I'll set up a day. We'll set up a day. So okay, we're gonna play this today, and that's gonna be our day. And we're gonna get halfway through the game, and we're gonna have lunch. And we're gonna come back because that's 3-4 hours. If you play with to two people cooperatively, we're working through one of the
The
adventure packs.
story, the adventure packs, yeah.
Yeah, which I think is the only way to play that game. And that's just a four game campaign. Done. That's beautiful. Lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
But so those she'll play with me, but for the rest of them, it's I'm on my own. Like we're going to talk about League of Dungeoneers later, and we'll probably also talk about Dungeon Universalis because you hard to talk about one without talking about the other one. She's not going to play that. Like there is a 0% chance she's going to play that. So it's I'm always playing those things, but by
Yeah,
myself. And so that because of that, I never even looked at
at Hero
HeroScape
Quest.
because it
Yeah,
wasn't. Yeah. Hero Quest, not HeroScape. Because it's not made for that. And of course, there'll be people who make stuff up, but why would I buy one where I then have to go to the stuff that people made up to do?
yeah. One of the
Enough.
solo supplements that somebody has made. It was actually made by Tristan Hall, the designer of Gloom of Kilforth.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's Ninja Dog on Board Game Geek,
Mm.
and he's got a really good system of generators for Hero Quest for just really randomized dungeon crawls in the game, and it's fun. I've played worse games, definitely.
Well, that is a
That's
ringing
a
endorsement.
glowing endorsement
You
there.
can put that right up on
Yeah,
the campaign page. I've
exactly.
played worse
I've played
games.
worse.
The Dungeon Dive. No, it's so funny. So another tangent here. You look on the Kickstarter campaign quotes. So I had some people I knew. They ran a campaign. They had to relaunch, and they thought it would be refreshing if they put quotes up that weren't like super oh glowing, and but were like real and substantive, like talking about the faction balance in this game is really solid.
Hmm.
Like that's a quote, but people just started ripping into them. They're like, oh, look at these quotes. It's a game that feels like a game, and like people just weren't having it. Like the idea was good, and I saw what they were doing, but it backfired so spectacularly. I mean, not as good as that quote you have pinned on your page, but
Oh,
pretty good.
that's funny. I don't know.
Um,
Sometimes a game is just needs to be okay. I think
I
I've said
said that
I've
about
yeah.
I don't know. Can you see right here? No, just offsite. The game Cora. It's a Euro game, and I talked about it on someone else's podcast. I was like, it's just a game.
Yeah, it's okay.
I
It's
like
like
it. It's
yeah.
fun, but it's just a game. Like I'm gonna play it and I'll put it away, and every now and then, if we need something decently simple, oh, let's play that. But I'm not gonna wrap my life around it. And I feel like people crap on that. But I think we need
Nope.
games that are just it's just a game.
Yeah,
You
I was talking to somebody on YouTube. I recently reviewed Red Sonja, the board game, and Red Sonja is an okay game. And you know what? Like we were talking before. I recently sold Oathsworn. I sold Darkest Dungeon. I sold Sword and Sorcery. I sold all these big games that everybody loves, but I'm
People who love
keeping
sword and sorcery are
but
wrong. I'm
but
sorry, I said it.
yeah, but I'm keeping Red Sonja. And I'm sure to a lot of people, that's like, "What? Why? Why?" Like we have these AAA amazing, big, masterfully produced games, and you're keeping Red Sonja? It's like, yeah, because you know what? The game is okay, and it's super easy to get to the table. It's fun. It doesn't take a lot to learn. I can play a game by myself in like an hour. I can put it away. It takes up this much space instead of this much
Yep.
space. And sometimes okay is good enough, or sometimes good enough is great. And yeah, I don't need every game to be this big epic masterpiece.
Yeah, I try not to keep too many of them. So the one that I got coming next, and it harkens. I'm glad you talked about HeroScape because it is fighting fantasy adventures from. And I did not play the fighting fantasy books. I don't know if you
So
played
what?
them.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I busted out my advanced fighting fantasy books here.
Yeah.
So
So
this is the fighting fantasy RPG that they made, Dungeoneer and Black Sand.
yeah, well, here it is. This is the prototype. It's I'm waiting on the printed rule book. It didn't get printed in here, so there's an
Yeah.
PDF of it. But I'll bust it open. But yeah, it's a very simple little. You know, this is
Oh,
great.
so that is that the card game version of Fighting Fantasy? Somebody was talking about that on the Dungeon Dive
Yeah,
Facebook group.
yeah. So
That's
it's
right.
it's
Yeah.
coming up. It's very simple,
Hmm.
but it looks like it could be fun in the same vein as this Red Sonja you're talking about. Just simple to play, quick, easy. So I'm looking forward to kind of running through its paces a bit. They've asked me to do a playthrough video, so I'm gonna I'll have one of those up. But it looks like it could be a lot of fun, or maybe it's just gonna be a game. I don't know.
Hmm.
So but that's kind of I guess everything that's old is new now because they're clearly hoping people like you are gonna be like, "Ooh, fighting fantasy, I'm in."
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I will definitely take a look at it because, yeah, I mean, I know Fighting Fantasy has kind of enjoyed a little bit of a popularity boost lately. It's never really gone away. There's been weird little things here and there over the decades, little video game versions, little app versions, digital versions of the books. You know, recently those two big biographies came out, the two big books, "You Are the Hero,"
mm.
and those are fantastic. Really, really good books about the history. Fighting fantasy is a huge part of our culture. You had Steve Jackson and Ian Livingston. You know, I mean,
Oh, and
James.
Martin Wallace is involved in this too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, wait, if I may have just spoke out of turn. Now I might be thinking of a
Yep.
different game.
Nope. You're right. Martin
Okay.
Wallace. Yep. Yep. Steve Jackson, Ian Livingston. I mean, those are the guys that basically started Games Workshop. So that's huge. And you know, you had Gary Chalk doing a lot of the art. John Blanche did art for Fighting Fantasy. So Fighting Fantasy is probably it's in my hobby life just as important, if not maybe more important than Dungeons and Dragons because of that ability to play by myself, to just buy the books and play them whenever I wanted.
I hope it's good. I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but I mean, it was enough that I was interested. Martin Wallace, that guy gets around. Like,
He
there is
will
no rhyme or reason to what he designs. None.
yeah, Runebound.
You know, he had some kind of skirmishy
Yeah, that his skirmish game
area control
looks really
game.
cool. Yeah, he's a good designer. He's neat. I like Martin Wallace a lot. I like him, and I like what's that? Reiner Knizia a lot too. Those guys are always doing interesting things. They never rest on their laurels. Those two, they're always up to doing something interesting. And I always wanted to play Martin Wallace's Australia. Did you ever play Australia?
I didn't, but mostly because I don't like zombies, and I was like, I don't
Okay,
care.
okay, yeah,
But I've heard it's actually a lot of fun.
yeah. It looks great. And Hit Z Road again, a zombie game. Both of those were looked cool. I've never gotten to play them, but I would like to try them at some
Oh, and
point.
the Australia is also Cthulhu. I don't
It's
really care
good.
about Cthulhu. It's Cthulhu and zombies. I'm like, boy,
Oh
that
yeah,
is
that's not a game for you.
like, you know, if you want to play, I will play with you and be happy. You know, but I don't. I played one game of Call of Cthulhu at a con because a friend was running it, and a bunch of friends like they would love Cthulhu, wanted to play. I'm like, all right, and we're going through this game, and I'll never forget. We're playing, and there was some evil book we found on the ship, and I was just like, why don't we just burn it? Like, just burn it. Like, be done. We'll burn it. Problem solved. Like, no, no, you can't do that because like the magic and the this. I was like, why don't we just
Yeah,
burn it?
you're getting rid of knowledge though. You got to keep the knowledge.
So I
You
got
got to
overruled
learn.
by clowns like you. I got overruled. I wind up getting horribly murdered in the climax of the game. We had to set off the nuclear warhead on the ship to stop all the stuff. And after the game, I asked the guy who wrote the module, was running the game, and I was like, so if we had burned the book, what would have happened? He said, well, the cultists probably would have tried to kill you, but you absolutely would have stopped the world ending disaster. And I was like, why didn't you listen to me? And the next time I actually played a game of Call of Cthulhu, I made my character, I named him Bernie McBurnface.
You're
And
just
that was
burning
his
books.
thing.
That's
Just
all he does is burn. Every book he sees, he burns.
every single book, he got shot in the head by a librarian. It ended poorly, which was also funny. But yeah, so that one's kind of like right out. But I've heard it's fantastic enough. Well, not fantastic. I've heard it's very good enough to where I'd be tempted to give it a try.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. But I brought you on not to go off on tangents or however long we've gone off on tangents here, but just to kind of broadly talk about what we think makes for a good dungeon crawl, because that's a huge topic.
Hmm.
I mean, we're not going to spend hours on this, but your personal taste, like what is it like? Oh, that I really, really like what is it that grabs you the most about a dungeon crawl? Because we got plenty of them. You got way more than I do, and I got too many of them.
There's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot, but very few do everything right. Not to stay on this broken record too much because this is a game I talk about a lot. But if I were to think of one game that kind of does everything right that I like, it would probably be Quest for the Lost Pixel from Peter Jank, available on the Game Crafter. And I look at that as a game that has everything that I look for in a dungeon crawl. It has random tile laying where you are actually exploring a dungeon, where the way you go kind of matters because of the way the cards are laid out. It has a lot of loot. It has monsters. Fighting is one of the main, one of the main verbs, one of the main actions you take in the game. But it also has other things to do. So I like other things to do beyond fighting. So ways to interact with the game, different kinds of random events, adventure, and progression, but not necessarily an overarching narrative campaign. I'm not a fan of big story-driven campaigns. I prefer games that have character-driven campaigns where I could just go on random adventures but keep my character alive from game to game. So I think those are kind of the main things that I look for. I also look for rules that are not overly complex most of the time. I've grown to prefer more simple games, but that doesn't mean I'm completely adverse to something that is complex. There's always exceptions to every one of my rules.
Yeah, I'm. It's interesting because it was why I wanted to have you on talk with us because we're very different in this. I love a story. Give me a
Hmm.
good, solid story. I want to know what happens. I want to play through it. I'm going to be happy. Now that said, I like we've mentioned. I like Wanderer Cult of Barnacle Bay a lot, and that's not a great story, but it's a story that's interesting to me and I can follow. So I enjoy that. I like Madara a lot, and people love or hate that story.
Yeah,
It's
I did not like, but we had 3 games in a row where we spent as much time reading as we did playing.
Fool,
And
play it by yourself. What's wrong with you?
that was like, nope, okay, we cannot play this game anymore. And I do just the life was just draining out of the eyes of the people at the table because oh my god,
Yeah, no,
we're on
it's
page
a lot.
20 of reading. What? And then we fight a boss, and the boss took like 10 minutes to kill. And then okay, another 15
Yeah,
another 15 pages of reading.
and so but I like that game because I play it one by myself, and I enjoy the story. I'm into it. I
Yeah.
want to know what happens.
The gameplay, the moment to moment gameplay of Madara is fantastic. Like it's a very, very well made game for
But
sure.
it's huge.
It's
Like
so
I have
huge.
played so many hours, and I mean, I'm just like looking at how far through that thick Act One book I am.
Mhm.
I think I'm like 60% through,
Yeah.
maybe. And
Well,
I got Acts 2 and 3 coming.
yeah, I know. Yeah, way more. And let me tell you, let me tell people why I don't typically like story written narratives in board games, because most people who make board games aren't good authors. I have a collection of like 1,000 fantasy books in my house written by professional authors who are paid to write stories. When I want to experience a story, I'll turn to a novel.
Mhm.
Uh, the best written board game story I've ever experienced is maybe as good as the most mediocre novel I've ever read. It's like just the caliber of the writing. Just they're not professional writers. They're not authors. They're not
What dungeon crawls would you put as having top story? Like top story.
so a story. Let's define story. By story, do you mean a written a written prose narrative?
Yeah, so not like when you're generating it on your own.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
I like
you
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So something that is written by somebody else that I enjoy the writing of. Think I think Sleeping Gods has good writing. I think let's see here. I thought Familiar Tales actually had good writing.
Yep, that's one of the top of my list, and
Yeah.
I actually, which I was just surprised you let Oathsworn go. I think Oathsworn's pretty darn good story. Like it's pretty good. That's why those were my top two from last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
I
I
I like the Madara story, but it's a lot. It's not my
I'm a
genre of
yeah,
story.
I'm a huge anime fan too. So you would think that Madara would be right up my alley, but yeah. It was just
That's
too much. It was too much for me, you
yeah.
know?
As I'm looking at the and there's a whole bunch that are like that as I look around, like yeah, they're fine. Oh well, and the Tales from Red Dragon Inn, that story is great. For that, that's I think you'll enjoy that. The wacky zany.
Yeah.
But yeah, but beyond that, the type of I'm looking around. And I have a bunch of okays, like Vagrant Song, okay.
Yeah,
You know,
Vagrant Song has is pretty light on the story, so that's good. That's good for me.
yeah,
Um,
Tanaris Adventures is a solid story. It's not great, but it's enough that I'm interested in it. Like Barnacle Bay, I talked about. I'm interested in it.
no,
Um,
yeah, I couldn't tell you what happens in Barnacle Bay, even though it's one of my well, I mean,
yeah. Well,
one of
as we talked
one
earlier,
of my
evil,
favorite games.
evil
Yeah,
happens, and
and the
then you
good
go
guys.
hero, and then evil goes away.
See, Barnacle Bay is such a good game because to me, that's kind of like what I want out of a zombie side style
Mhm.
dungeon crawl because it has those random events that you place on the map and it has those cards and you never know what's going to happen. So there's always a sense of adventure in Cult of Barnacle Bay. And I like that there are some branching paths. So you don't always have to play through the same missions. But what I think elevates Cult of Barnacle Bay above some others is the moment to moment gameplay is really solid.
Yeah,
The
it
dice
doesn't do too much.
mitigation, nope, and the advanced initiative track
I
is
think that thing's great.
awesome. Like,
Yep.
more games need interesting initiative tracks where you get a bonus depending on or bonus or penalty depending on where you are on that track. The the expansion for Folklore of the Affliction adds that initiative track that is
Yeah,
a
I got
lot
I
like
got that.
and
I
that's
held on to that
great.
for a bit, and it was
It
much more
makes
interesting.
much
With
more
that.
interesting. It makes the game more interesting, and that initiative track in Cult of Barnacle Bay, that simple little thing really does elevate that game.
Yeah, what I've started doing when I look at dungeon crawls for me just to buy is I'm always looking now for. I mean, if it's got what I think is a really good story, I'm in. If it's got anthropomorphic animals, I'm probably in. I don't know when I fell in love with anthropomorphic animals. I don't know when that happened, but now
I
I'm like,
can
oh,
I can tell you exactly what happened for me.
yeah, when?
Probably 85, 1985 with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and After the Bomb
Oh, okay.
and Usagi Yojimbo. Yeah.
Well, because I watched well, maybe not that one, but Teenage Mutant Ninja, Turtles, all those things. But then I didn't care for the longest time, and then suddenly in the last 10 years, I'm like, oh man, I love those things. So I don't know when it happened, but so you got that. You probably got me. Like I won't lie,
Mhm.
you probably got me in. Um, but then for the most part, I'm looking for one interesting thing because
Mhm.
dungeon crawls are all kind of the same in many ways, but just something that's going to be interesting to me, something that's going to grab me. So, like Barnacle Bay, you got the initiative track. The uh, I'm getting copies of a copy of War Crow Adventures because it had an interesting initiative track. Like I got to demo, like the it's really interesting kind of initiative how you're choosing what you're doing. You got some interesting action selection, all that stuff. But the initiative track, but that's cool. I like that. It's interesting to me. I look at like a Dungeon Alliance. That is just it's actually a Euro dungeon crawl. That's
It is.
interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't come at me with Gloomhaven being a Euro. Those freaking cards. Oh, I hate them. I hate that auto
Uh,
miss so much.
yeah, the action cards or the cards that generate your dice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not slagging off. Actually, I guess I am slagging off Gloomhaven there. Yeah, no, I hate that dumb card, that auto
That
null.
miss.
Oh my god, I hate it so much. Like we actually we played through all of Gloomhaven. We played through all of Jaws of the Lion. And in both of them, it kind of became a no, well, no, we're going to finish now. I found on the app version of Gloomhaven that has an optional rule you can turn on to where it's not times 2 for the crit and it's not auto miss. It's just +2, -2 for those cards.
Oh, that's kinda nice. So it kind of, it shrinks the curve a little bit.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's not, you never have an auto miss, which is to us so much more fun
Mhm. Mhm.
because it's so mad, especially if you're the type that culls your little deck down, you're dramatically increasing.
The chance of that card coming out. Yeah.
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 So anyhow, but so that's kind of what I tend to look for. But good interesting characters. And I'll tell you one thing that'll turn me right off, like the '80s female bikini armor art.
Mhm.
Like I just don't. I don't need that. Like, I have the internet, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
We can move on. We can move past that.
yeah. And the only game that I have that has sexualized art that I like is Madara because everybody's all sexualized.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
"Hey,
playing
put
the
on a
big
shirt, dude."
yeah, I was
You know?
playing the big burly guy with the
Yeah.
2 hammers, and he was wearing a living bikini as his armor, and
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. I
It's
love
just
that.
funny. So it's this whole weird, thing about like he has the hammers because he starts the game with two hammers, but he also starts the game with a breastplate, but not on
Yeah,
the not on the art. He's like, nah, I'm just gonna
yeah.
look at my chest here, baby. So you know what, fine. I'm okay with it there because like it's everybody. Though apparently some of the optional buy stuff you can get is just like, no, you can keep that. But so yeah, that's kind of where I'm. Oh, on a total side note. So the Omicron Protocol people, one of their upcoming factions that they're working on is a guy who's like basically he's a cosplayer who runs around basically in like what the male version would be of chainmail bikini.
Nice.
Like that's his shtick. Like they're just totally sending it up, which I thought was funny.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like the art is like with like a tiny little like a speedo like made of metal and like arm shoulder spikes
Some shoulder spikes.
and like a belt, a leather belt across the, like, and that's it. And as like show, I was like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh no, it's like bikini armor. I'm like, "Oh,
Bikini, yeah, male bikini armor.
yeah, all right, I'm there, I'm with you.
Another thing that I like, or I guess I could say I don't like, one thing I don't like is the game when a game throttles what I have access to. And to illustrate that point, you can look at Secrets of the Lost Tomb versus Secrets of the Lost Station. Similar games, but Secrets of the Lost Tomb on your
I
very
loved
yeah,
watching your extreme disappointment.
yeah,
I
on
like
the
not
very
not that you
first
were in pain, but
but
just to see those
it
videos of
was
how
yeah,
excited you
no. Oh,
were,
I know, and
to
just
how
yeah,
sad you were. Oh,
and Lost Tomb handles it so well because on the very first turn of a game of Lost Tomb, you can find the most powerful item in the game, and I love that. I love being overpowered in games. I don't play games for a challenge. Just give me the most powerful items, give me the most powerful weapons, give me the most powerful armor, and let me just mow down everything. That's how I have fun. My games for me are power fantasies. I don't want to be challenged. I want my heroes to be powerful. And with Lost Station, the game like the first few games you played, you had access to nothing cool at all. And the game throttled what you could have access to. Games like Dark Light Memento Mori, Secrets of the Lost Tomb, Warhammer Quest, those games give you everything just straight out of the gate. You have access to everything. There's a chance that you can find the uber weapon on your very first turn, and that's what I like. That the illusion of anything, the illusion of anything can happen. Whereas with a lot of narrative games, you're kind of they throttle what you have access to, and so you're just kind of you are being led along by the designers, and then they give you something powerful. But when they give you something powerful, they've also made the enemies more powerful, so you don't really feel more powerful because you're doing more damage, but the enemies have more hit points or more armor, and so it's like this power creep where everything just stays kind of like the same. I want the chance of becoming Doom guy and being able to mow down the the armies of hell by myself.
yeah, yeah. I'm of both minds of that. Now I am 100% with you. It's like I want to win. Like one of the things that I really don't like is if it doesn't have a fail forward.
Yeah, fail forward's a really
Yeah,
good modern concept. Yeah,
yeah. I just
I
don't
love that.
because like I'm not going to lie to you. And if Madara has his fail forward, but if
Yes.
I play, a 90 like the mission I just got to, I literally am running two parties
Hmm.
on two different maps on the board because they're happening simultaneously, which is a very cool idea, but that's going to take a long time. And if I were to fail, and it's like play it again.
Nope. I'm cheating.
No, you know what? I'm like, "Oh, I actually won."
Yep. Yeah. No,
Like,
I do that all the time.
yeah, like, that's where I'm gonna cheat. That's where I'm gonna cheat. That's what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
I cheat in my games all the time. because yeah, I'm not gonna play it again. I'm not gonna sit by myself and reset up the map and be like, okay, let's try again. No, it's like, yeah, that's not fun
Yeah,
for me.
so sometimes I will, like, if it's a huge huge moment in the story. I'll be like,
Hmm.
you know what? No, I want to do this. I want to feel like I did this. But for the most part, like, look, thank you. Let me move forward. And that's the only. Well, I won't say there's like a Barnacle Bay. There's lots of things that aren't perfect about that game. But that's one of the things I was like, when we failed and we had to do the thing again,
Yeah,
and we just had to
yeah,
start over and do it again, and then we get together every so often.
yeah. You don't have that much time, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
we're actually
yeah.
playing with other people, but, so that's what we're gonna do, and I will say that's the one miss that Tales from Red Dragon Inn has, is it's not a fail forward. It doesn't have that. I think that's the one real miss that they have there. But, like, nowadays, if you don't have a fail forward for me, and then I'm gonna be frustrated by that.
Or make failure interesting.
Yeah,
Um, some games it's fun to lose in. I think Kingdom Death Monster, it's fun to lose. There are interesting things that happen when you lose. Digging yourself out of those holes in Kingdom Death Monster can be really fun. Sometimes there are interesting narrative things that happen when you lose in that game. I think it's fun to lose in games like Arkham Horror, just because of all the bad stuff that happens to your characters. Oh, I went insane and then I got trapped, and that, to me, if it's narratively fun to lose, then I'm okay with it. But if it's just you get to the last boss, you fail some dice rolls and nothing really interesting happens, you haven't had this memorable time of suffering, then yeah, then it's not fun to
yeah,
lose.
it's just
It's
frustrating.
just frustrating. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that this is a house rule that I almost always make, is I want to play all the characters.
Mhm.
So, like, when I went through Barnacle Bay, when I did it by myself, I'm on the third time playing through this campaign now. I just made it about, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make up some rules of what makes sense when I'm gonna switch the heroes in and out, because I wanted to try all of them, but I wasn't gonna run through the whole campaign 5 times to experience it with all these characters.
Yeah, just move them in and out, kind of.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just I love it. I want more games to just have it, like, well, Madara does that well. It's like, yeah, send who you want, like, whatever. Sometimes some are unavailable, but yeah, just pick your team and send them, and that's great for me, because that keeps it even more fresh. Because again, like, it is a lot of repetition in the dungeon crawl.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're getting more powers and stuff, it's still some variant. It's an ice blast. That's 5 dice. Oh, now I have fireball. That's also 5 dice. Like,
Yeah, yeah, if there's no yeah, there has to be some, a narrative reasons, not just story, but narrative reasons of why things are happening, and it's kind of a nebulous thing to define. It's hard to say, "Oh, like, this game does it, and this game doesn't do it," and sometimes it all just comes down to the flavor text on the cards, you know?
yep.
It's like flavor text is so important. If you have a bunch of items in a game, if your item cards are just stats, I'm not going to be excited. But if you add like one sentence of information about that item or about the world or about the creation of that item, then I'm way more apt to be into your game and your game world. Roger Deering on Dungeon Crusade, every single item of loot in that game has a little sentence, has a little piece of lore.
Is it just one sentence? Because
It
I
is.
like Roger a lot.
He's verbose.
However, however, man can't make a Facebook comment without it being a novel. Roger, if you're watching or listening to this,
Oh,
I
he
love you.
knows. He knows.
But, like, it always says, "Good morning to you,"
Yeah.
or "Good afternoon," and it's just the longest thing in the
Yeah. He just
world.
he just sent me a text that's like 50 pages long, and I responded, "Okay."
It's just, it cracks me up that how much that dude writes.
Yeah.
And
He. Yeah. He's a great guy though. But
yeah, I have
yeah, everybody
a
loves
copy
Roger.
of the the new version that's apparently streamlined and the rule book makes sense coming. Because I won't lie, I didn't back the first one because I got to look some stuff and I was like, I don't know what's happening. What is going on? Ah, and I,
It's a
and, and
cool
I
game.
and I ran away.
Yeah, it's a really cool game. It does some really neat things and some unique things. I think it still could use some work as far as the length goes, and I know Roger's working on a shorter mode with more like a random kind of just a dungeon crawl mode where you don't have to solve a bunch of quests, and that's going to be pretty cool. I think I'm going to be writing a couple little quests for the game, so things you can get in and get out within like, 2 hours as compared to 12, 14, 16 hours.
Oh my
Those
gosh.
games are long, but they're cool. I really like Dungeon Crusade. It scratches a very unique itch, I think.
Yeah. So that is actually a good segue. We're going to move into the game we're going to talk about. But before I do that, everybody, please consider becoming a channel member. I've talked about it a lot. There's a link down in the description. Click on it, check it out. It's great. You'll love it. You'll love it. Daniel loves it.
What is that? Do you do YouTube membership?
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
it's the
Mhm.
Patreon, but it's just right there on YouTube.
It's through YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that nobody knows about. It's horrible marketing. The no one has a clue what it is. Everyone's, oh, I'm a subscriber. Like, yeah, it's different. But see, if I were to do a Patreon, I gotta go over to another website, and I'm lazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, I put in about, yeah, I mean, like you, I don't know how many hours a week you do for Hungry Gamer, but I'm about 30 hours a week on Dungeon Dives, so
Yeah, it's not quite that much.
it's a
But
lot.
yeah, but, I mean, 15, 20,
Yeah,
easy, easy, and a lot of it's fun. Like I'm just playing the games. But yeah, a lot of time, a lot
yeah,
of
it's a
time.
lot of time.
All right, so we are going to talk about ostensibly we're going to talk about League of Dungeoneers, but do
Mm.
not be surprised if we wind up talking about Dungeon Universalis, and if Daniel talks a little bit about Dungeon Crusade as well, because this game, all three of these games, are the exact opposite of everything we just said about liking a simple rule set.
Yes, and those are like, yeah, those are
Like just,
exceptions to
just
some of the rules. Yep,
so
these are
many rules,
so many rules,
and just it's
especially
just
Dungeon Universalis. Oh my god, that
we
game is like that game is the opposite of minimalism. That
it,
game is a
I
maximalist
I
game.
ignore more rules in that game than are in multiple other games. Like
Yeah,
it, and to a lesser extent, I had League of Dungeoneers. Um, there's definitely stuff that I don't. There's
yeah,
just rules for everything, which is its own beast, right? That's its own style of game. It's like you can do anything that you want in these games, and it's got loose story. I think much looser story in League of Dungeoneers. I think.
yeah. That's more my on my end of the spectrum as far as what I like in a story. It's more about the random dungeon crawling. It's more about exploring
I
uh,
love the exploration in League of
yeah
Dungeoneers.
the
I think it's great.
world, creating your own little connections between the settlements and the dungeons and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. So, well, just kind of jumping into it. I really like the dungeon exploration in League of Dungeoneers.
Mhm.
I I, I really dig and I guess that's how Warhammer Quest did it.
It is the closest I've seen a game besides. So I mean, there's 3 games there's 3 games that are basically Warhammer Quest right now. League of Dungeoneers, Shadows of Brimstone, and Darklight, Memento Mori. Those are the 3 Warhammer Quest derivative games, and they're not trying to hide it. They are based on Warhammer Quest, and yes, the League of Dungeoneers, the dungeon exploration is straight up Warhammer Quest 95.
Yeah, and I think yeah, it's a blast. It's just a blast. Going through, and I think Michael, who's the designer, that he did a very good job. I think just with each of the dungeon tiles and having
Mhm.
built into each tile. Yes, this is an interaction point. It's not
Yes.
just art,
Yeah,
and
so
the
yeah, interacting like ways to interact with the art in a game is super important to me, and very, very few games get that right.
yeah, it's very very cool. And
Yeah.
Dungeon Universalis does it too a little. You got to have all those little tiles that you're putting on.
Yeah, I
Well,
love that. I love that deck of cards in Dungeon Universalis. The features
yeah,
deck is fantastic. I use that for when I just play like solo RPGs. you draw a random fountain or a random bookshelf that you get to explore and investigate.
Yeah, so lots of very, very cool stuff, but it's bogged down under so many rules, and neither of those two games has a particularly good rule book.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, in my review, yeah, my review for League of Dungeoneers was pretty critical. Uh, I spent so when I review a game that maybe isn't out yet, I don't do that a lot. You review preview games a lot more
yeah,
than I do.
yeah.
Um, I try to not have contact with the designer because I want to experience the game as a user would, which a user doesn't have direct access to somebody to ask them a question, right? But with League of Dungeoneers, I was in contact with Michael quite quite a bit because unfortunately there are a lot of typos, a lot of just erroneous rules, conflations, a mixing and matching of terms, and yeah, it's the second edition of that is going to be much better.
But it's okay for me because I'm just gonna make a choice and go because
Go
with
with it.
both of these
Yep.
games, if I tried to be true to the letter of the law in these games, I would never do anything.
Yeah, yeah. No,
It
I just the look at them in a modular fashion, right? Engage
Mhm.
with the things you want to engage with. Don't engage with the things you don't want to engage with. And if you're playing solo, like we are most of the time with these games, hey, as long as we're having fun, you know.
Yeah, I just make up so often I'm playing both, and something about these games leads me to feel okay with ignoring rules and making up house rules. Something about them because I
Mhm.
feel like systems. Like I don't know what it is, but I just even playing League of Dungeoneers a couple times. What's the rule? I was like, I'm just gonna say -10 and just move on.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take away from the quality of the game experience for me.
No.
And it's
No, it
like because
doesn't
it's
at
not
all.
the core system is fascinating to me. I think in League of Dungeons, I loved making my characters.
Yeah, making the characters is in both in League and Dungeon Universalis, making characters is super fun.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be upset when they die, which is weird because I usually get very attached to my characters. Like, whatever, I'll make a new dwarf. He'll have he'll look the same because I'm gonna use the same mini, but
Yeah.
but whatever. Like I found myself playing Dungeon Universalis at one point. I was like, I kind of wish I would die right now. I want to make somebody
I
new.
wanna make yeah. I love making characters in Dungeon Universalis. I think Dungeon Universalis has, I think, the most interesting character creation in a board game.
It's very,
It's
very
it's
in
just
depth.
so cool, just
Yeah.
mixing and matching all the weird, races and ancestries with the abundance of different classes and skills that they have. I feel like I can make any kind of character I want to in
Yeah.
Dungeon Universalis.
And some very like so one of the characters that I have made that I think one's like a thief or whatever, but I have a blade dancer or something, and I
Mhm.
literally flip over people to get to the other side. That's like an ability I just have.
Yeah, yeah.
And just and the difference between that character, my buddy was out here, he made some kind of warrior or like monk or something. The difference in what we could do, and we actually were very close to the same base stats,
Mhm.
was amazing.
Yeah, it makes you really feel different on the battle. You know what a good game is that I think offers the best in terms of characters that feel different and powerful is it's another game that I didn't really like, but I like this aspect of it, and that is Chronicles of Drunagor.
Yes,
The
yes,
action the action element of that game on a character by character basis, on a moment by moment basis is masterful. Like, I have never felt more powerful in a game than when I'm playing, Chronicles of Drunagor. Just flipping over, enemies, pushing them, casting spells, hitting them with my sword, just all kinds of really, really cool stuff.
I wanted to like that game so much. And I don't dislike that game,
Mhm.
but I didn't keep that game either.
No, I didn't keep it either. Yep.
I played through, I don't know, the first third of it, and I was like, I've experienced this.
Yeah. For
And
me,
some
the thing that killed that game for me was there was too much going back into the box while you were playing the game. You kept having to set up those rooms based on the
yeah.
doors that you were opening, and the game is so fast paced that you were constantly setting something new up, and it completely derailed, the momentum of the game for me.
Yeah, and just so it's like so close. It's
Yeah.
like so close. And I feel like that's so much about like with League of Dungeoneers. I'm like, it's so close. Like, and he's getting it. That's what's cool to me. He's getting it. Like he before I even got my copy, and I got my copy not as advanced as you did, but I got an advanced copy also. It was like 3 or 4 weeks after yours did. But he'd already sent me a simplified alchemy rules. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I
Mhm.
really wanted to do the alchemy. I was like, that's fascinating to
Did
me.
he publish those
I
somewhere?
think so.
Did he? Okay, okay.
I don't know. If not, I'll send it to you. It's just a
The alchemy is really fun in that game. I
yeah.
one of my first characters was an alchemist, and I never roll up an alchemist in a game,
Nope.
but
I ne- me either.
there's like 40 different potions in that game, and they're all cool. They all do like you can throw potions, you can apply potions to your weapons, you can drink potions, and like, oh man, there's so many cool
Yeah, it's great.
potions in that.
Like the
Yeah.
simplified one is just this is like less stuff,
Mhm.
basically. It's like less types of herbs and stuff you can get. It's just reduced a bit, so like you can find stuff a little more easily. I haven't figured out how to actually get new recipes. I haven't figured that out yet. But
I think you just create them. I thought.
yeah, like you start.
You
Yeah, it's like I start with a recipe and I say, okay, this is for
yeah.
this, and I need this, this, and
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
But then how do you? Because
It's
it
a
can't be
it's
like
a
you just say,
turn.
oh, I have a new recipe now.
It's
Like it
a
can't be that.
I think it's a I believe it's been a while since I've played, but I think it's a turn that you can take in an overland when you're on your overland crawl. When
Uh,
you're resting, you can take like an alchemy turn and you can say, okay, I'm going to combine these three elements and see what happens. I'm pretty sure that's how,
oh, and then
yeah.
it becomes a
And then it becomes a recipe.
recipe.
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
stupid. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And you have to like write it down and, the recipe may not turn out, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's how, I'm
Yep,
pretty sure
that's
that's
exactly
how
how
it
it
works.
works, and I
Yeah.
read that, and it just didn't stick in my brain.
Yeah.
Um, but, like, I have never played a game that has alchemy like that.
Yeah. It's super
Um,
cool.
like,
Super
it's
fun.
yeah, and it's but then, like, on the other hand, yeah, look at, like, the warrior priest is the other character I made. So disappointing. I mean, I'm enjoying him, and I like him, but, like, I thought these battle prayers are gonna be so cool.
They're a little more limited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I'm just like, "Yeah, I should've made a wizard," you know?
Battle priests, you know what, I play in a lot of games, I play monks or I play religious dudes in games a lot of clerics. I like clerics and monks. But in games with battle priests, they always seem to fall flat, famously, the battle priest in the warrior priest in Warhammer Quest is, kind of broken. When you heal, you can actually end up doing damage to to the person you're trying to heal, and he's kind of weak. And yeah, the battle priest in League of Dungeoneers was a little. The prayers are just a little bit too limited. I think.
Yeah, I'm
I
hoping
think
there's
that's a
some new ones that
yeah. I
come.
think that's where I would house rule something where maybe you either get more. They because D&D always made the clerics to where you didn't have to memorize certain spells. You always knew all of your spells, but you could only cast a certain number a day or something like that.
Yeah, it was, you didn't have to learn them,
Yeah,
but you could, you had you have
to
access to all
everything.
of them, but you
Yeah,
just have to pick each day.
yeah. So maybe something more like that. Maybe house ruling it to where you have access to more prayers than the rules say, or something like
Well,
that.
but
But
that's like the level ones, just like they're not interesting, and
yeah,
there's, I just think it needs a little more oomph, which I think is a little bit. So I'm also of two minds of this because also with the spells are better.
hmm
Spells are better because there's more of them.
yeah.
But then you compare the number of spells in League of Dungeoneers to like Dungeon Universalis.
Oh man, the magic in Dungeon Universalis is off the hooks good. I
It's
mean, it's
insane.
like the stack of spells is like so big. There's like 10 different
Schools and each
schools and
school has what 20 spells in it. I
yeah.
don't know. There's so many things, and and you really in that one really want to learn more. So I started with a light mage. I was light mage. What the crap is that? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a light mage, sure. And I was like, okay. And then like, oh man, how come we can't do a lightning bolt? Okay, well now I'm a air. I think it's air you get lightning bolt. I don't know. Now I'm gonna do that. Now I'm gonna learn all these spells. And it really does push you to learn, do more and more and more. And I don't get that as much out of League of Dungeoneers, this push to learn more and more. However, I do get much more desire to just kind of wander around and find out what's going to happen
Yeah,
in League of
yeah,
Dungeoneers. Like I just
yeah.
like wander around, you know.
That's where, for me, that's where Dungeon Universalis falls a little bit. Is the for me the exploration isn't as fun because it doesn't have a random dungeon mode out of the box, and the overland map is more of going from one pre-constructed quest to the next, and there aren't a ton of things to do if you're outside of a campaign. Whereas I think League of Dungeoneers, it gives me that sandbox feel a little bit more.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, and I think, and I agree with you completely. And for me, what where Universalis falls down a little bit is so it has a story on rails, which
Hmm.
I'm okay with that. But the story's not that interesting. So, yeah, we're gonna go stop a demon. I think it's a demon, whatever it is.
Yeah,
You know, that's whatever his name is. It's on the cover of the
Bob Razabel,
Bob
that
Ross. Oh my
Bob
gosh,
Ross,
it's Bob Ross. Wow,
Bob
wouldn't that be a
Rosdale.
twist? Um, whereas, what Dungeoneers does that I like so much is so like the first one to suggest you do with the undead or whatever. It's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
eight games and you're done with that quest or whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah. The campaigns are really short
It's
in
just
League of
boom, short,
Dungeoneers.
done,
Yeah,
move on.
and
It
there's a whole bunch of
feels
them. There's a whole
Yeah, it
bunch of
feels
them.
like
Yeah,
it's like a slice of life game. It's like, yeah, we're adventurers and this is just the day. This is not like we're doing a monster of the week TV series. We're not doing Avengers Endgame, which is kind of what you're doing with Universalis. Like you're doing all this stuff for this big fight and it's just not the best written. And the League of Dungeoneers aren't the best written either, but they're just short, they're quick, it's,
yeah.
moving on. And that's very satisfying.
Yeah, I like how many. So I love the quest. I did a whole video on the quest structure of League of Dungeoneers, and you have these little micro campaigns. You have one campaign in the quest book two that's pretty long, but even that one's like 12 or so. But then you have a whole bunch of standalone random quests that you can sprinkle into your campaign at any time. It's got a whole new sub realm at the bottom of the map into that the desert zone. That once your characters get more powerful, I haven't even experienced that because I just I have so many games. I can't focus on one game for forever,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But there's so much to do in that game that I think you could even ignore all of the little campaigns and just have fun in League of Dungeoneers going on random dungeon crawls and just kind of making up your own story about your characters living this life of adventure. And that's kind of like why I think that's such a cool game.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's just got so many warts. Like
Hmm.
it is. I think I might, but I think I called it perfectly imperfect. Like it's so clearly just a dude made a game,
Yep.
and here it is, and it's a lot of fun. And I feel not quite the same with Universalis because they're clearly got like a machine behind that a little bit.
It's like four or five guys. I
Oh,
mean,
is that
yeah,
small?
no, yeah. It's. I mean, one Oscar and I forgot the other guy's name. So that game was derived from their games of Advanced Hero Quest. So they were a group of friends who played Advanced Hero Quest for a long time, and they just kind of started adding house rules to their games of Advanced Hero Quest, and that eventually became Dungeon Universalis.
Wow.
So while League of Dungeoneers is to Warhammer Quest as Dungeon Universalis is to Advanced Hero Quest.
Okay.
So the games have that kind of lineage, and I think Dungeon Universalis has moved past its inspiration more than League of Dungeoneers has.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they clearly clearly they want to. I don't know how much Michael wants to move past it. I think he wants that experience, and that's kind of what he's pushing for.
That's what he's
Um,
going for. He's honing in on that Warhammer Quest 95 feel.
yeah,
Yeah.
and which I never played. That's interesting. You talked about games that you earlier that you don't know why you never got into. I have no idea why I never bought Warhammer Quest because it was in the '90s when I was playing Warhammer Fantasy and
Yeah, it's
couldn't
like
play
right
very
there.
much. Yeah, and I didn't get to play that much because you had to go to a store, and
Yeah, yeah,
I have no idea why I never got it because I would look at it all the time. Oh, it looks kind of cool. Probably because I was, in middle school, I had no money. I don't know,
yeah, yeah. It
but
was expensive.
I'm so intrigued by both of these games, and I've kept them both, and I swore I wasn't going to keep them both, and I don't know how to reconcile that, but I
I
can't.
think they're different. They're different
Yeah,
enough that I don't see a lot of overlap between Dun and League of Dungeoneers. For me, Dun is best as a when one player is playing as the dark player,
yeah, and I
as
haven't
the
gotten to actually do that, and I
yeah,
want to try
because
that at some
it's
point.
it's more of an RPG, I think. And when I play like that, and I've only played like that a couple times, but I don't play in an adversarial way. I'm not trying to compete. I'm playing it more like a game of Dungeons and Dragons, where I am trying as the dark player, as the DM, I'm trying to just facilitate the fun for the players and provide them with a challenge. But if they're starting to lose and not having a good time, I'll pull back and I'll, help the players have fun. That's the way that I enjoy Done the most. It is a daunting solo experience for me. It's I am not smart enough to play Done solo.
Yeah, it's
It's a lot.
well, that's what I just start stripping stuff away. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like I don't. Yep. The one thing I don't do in either of the games is carrying capacity.
yeah. I never.
I don't care.
Mhm.
Like I make a like I acknowledge it exists. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna carry everything into the
Yeah,
dungeon with me. And if I'm feeling like really spicy, I'm like, they left it outside. Maybe something gets ruined if I roll a critical fail.
yeah. There you go.
Like that's about it. I'm like, because I don't care that much. Like,
Yeah, encumbrance is usually one of the first rules I house rule away
yeah,
in a
it
game.
doesn't matter to me. Um, I will say that this turned into we're talking about these two games because they're well. Everyone always asks me which one should I get. I'm like, I don't know. Which one do
Yeah,
you like?
yeah.
Um, I like the combat system in Done, just the 2d6 system
I love a 2d6 system.
a
I love
lot.
yeah. The 2d6 creates a good bell curve to where, you know that you have the best chance of hitting a 7. So, if your target number is a 7, you're gonna go for it. If your target number is an 8 or a 9, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's
I
good.
find it
Yeah.
very very satisfying. The D100 system, it just feels, and I know it's math and maybe it's not, but it just feels so swingy to me.
It's more swinging. It's just, the nature of probability. Rolling a 1 to a 100 is way more swingy than 2d6 because 2d6 creates a bell curve. So it's
Yeah,
not swingy. Anytime you can roll 2 dice and combine the results, that's a good bell curve. I always like systems that use 2 dice summed together.
but what it does do that I love is that if you get that 1 to 5 roll in League of Dungeoneers, that skill's now better.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
super
that's
cool.
awesome. That's
All
like,
kinds of ways to level up your character.
yep,
Yeah.
just real simple, moves up, but it doesn't feel like it's overpowered because you're getting 1%. You
Yeah.
know, so you can hear I'm just back and forth constantly on these two games,
Mhm.
and I will say I hate to admit it, I hate how much I love those 3D doors that came with League of Dungeoneers. I shouldn't care about those things, but you can pry them from my cold dead hand.
Hey, man. They add I'm actually I have mine all bagged up, to give away to somebody, so
Wow, well that's a
'cause,
lucky patron right there.
they don't fit in, my
In the
storage.
box.
Yep, so,
Nope, they don't fit in the box. I have a like off to the side of my room. I have some random things that just sit there. I got the doors, and I think I have the standees for the standee bases for Oathsworn because the
oh, yeah,
standee
those
version
are
actually
big.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't fit. Actually, standee version doesn't fit in that box. But I think I had to put a post-it note in the Oathsworn box to tell me where the hell I
Like,
put
hey,
the damn
remember,
things.
remember your standees are over here.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. But yeah, like I might want to. I need to paint them up and stuff. Like, do you paint your stuff, or are
No,
you
I'm a decent painter, but I just don't have time anymore.
so slop and drop,
I
slop and
don't
drop's what I
I
do.
don't have the desire to do to paint anymore. So
Yeah, I've landed into the when I get one a game that I like a lot, I will paint the heroes.
mhm.
I like having those painted up because I see those all the time. And then if there's bad guy minis, I just do like a shade, maybe a colored shade, maybe one color on them because I'm not going to see them very much. Like the
Yeah.
idea is that they go away, but I feel better than all the gray plastic being out there. You know,
Yeah, when I can, I'll just use a standee that has art already done.
yeah. I Another thing, I did not like the Dungeon Universalis standees at all, and I don't know why. I
They're a
really
little generic, lots of clip art, lots of, non-bespoke art, whereas the standees in League of Dungeoneers were all, uh, made specifically for that game. Yeah.
it's yeah. I gave all the Universalis ones away. I was like, I don't need these. Like, I even went so far as on Amazon, I got like little wooden tokens that just say like humanoid,
Oh, that's cool.
and I'm gonna eventually replace it with those tokens I talked about that I backed earlier. I'll use those. But the last thing I want to bring up and talking about these two is I love and hate how all of the art in League of Dungeoneers are just the fancy painted, like the minis, pictures of
Mhm.
the minis, and like the diorama. That's the most charming damn thing I've ever seen in a book. It's like I can't do this. Take pictures of the minis, which just makes it feel so one dude making a game.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the lack of art, that's something I spoke about in my review. There is a definite lack of art in League of Dungeoneers. Art
let's
assets
get a
are
little more. Let's get. I don't need a ton
yeah,
more. I don't
they're
necessarily need
expensive,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
don't need Dungeon Universalis level of art necessarily.
Yeah,
We can have a little bit
yeah,
more.
yeah, I mean, when he wanted to keep the price down, and he did, and one of the things that you can omit if you wanna keep the price down is original, or even licensed art assets, and so that's one place where he did pull back a little bit. He is addressing that. I have
Yeah, no, there's a new box cover. There's going to be because I guess the box cover is just a free to use.
it's
Anybody can use it.
yep, but I have preview copies of some of the expansions coming out for League of Dungeoneers, and there is more art for sure.
Yeah, I think you posted one video on that already.
Mhm.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was yours that I watched. Yeah, which got me thinking because there's like now art on some of those cards. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
but now I got all those cards without the art. What am I gonna do?
I don't know if there's any replacements. I think they're just new.
Yeah, I suspect, and
Yeah.
I will live. I don't need to go buy a whole bunch more cards. Like,
No. Yeah.
I mean, just I just want the cards that like are, you know, wrong. I'll take replacements for those. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
anyhow. So now you made a video where you're like you're gonna score all three of these games,
Mhm.
and you copped out at the end and didn't tell us which one had the most points at the end. And I almost made a comment on that video, tell you that you need to look at your life.
Look at my life.
Yeah, look.
Evaluate your life. No,
Oh,
somebody scored it. I think League of Dungeoneers ended up getting first place or something. But yeah, yeah. The whole point of that video was to show that hey, you know what?
was to make me mad.
All
That was
three
the
of
whole
these
point.
games are awesome, man. It's like we are as fans of dungeon crawls, we are so lucky. We are so blessed right now with so many great options. And when I got into my third phase of this hobby in 2004, there were no dungeon crawls. None. There was not a
Wow.
single. I mean, we had Descent First Edition. That was it. That was our dungeon crawl. And now we have an embarrassment of riches. And if you don't, there is a game for everybody out there. If you want
And it's not
Gloomhaven,
sword and sorcery.
yes.
And it's fun because I love Galaxy Defenders.
Hmm. Yeah.
Love it. And so I thought, well, clearly Sword and Sorcery will be the game for me because I like fantasy more than sci-fi. Nope.
Yeah, I didn't like the writing. The writing I thought was really bad in
Yeah,
Sword and
it's
Sorcery.
not great writing. They tried to add a lot of writing, whereas Galaxy Defenders, it's just your little, 2 cents scenario blurb.
The
Yeah.
anachronistic humor and Sword and Sorcery completely pulled me out of the world. Siri Cortana was a character, I think.
Oh, was it? I remember there was early on there
Or
was the
Cortana Siri or something.
There's a Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, no, I don't need anachronisms in my. And I'll be like super pedantic. I don't like that they co-opted an entire name of a genre for the the name of their board game. Because now, whenever you're looking up Sword and Sorcery board games, Sword and Sorcery comes up, and like, no, Sword and Sorcery is a genre of fantasy. It's not a. It's
Not anymore,
but
man.
that's just me. That's just a
I don't
super
know.
super
You've co-opted dungeon diving into a
pedantic.
channel.
Yeah, I
So
guess so,
that's
huh?
so yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
you're just as bad.
well, somebody already had Dungeon Crawl, so.
Oh, really? That's some. There is another hungry gamer that used to do video games.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. So it used to be they would pop up, but I guess
Yeah.
they don't do much. It's funny. There was a guy on. So yeah, this little podcast is Boards and Brews, which is an occasional thing that I do. Trying to do it more because I have fun with it. But there's another guy that has his own channel called Board Games and Brews.
Mhm.
Like that's his thing. And I posted Boards and Brews, and dude came into the comments like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool when someone copies your idea." He said it nicer, basically. What he said, and so I went up, I looked at the dates, and I was like, "Yeah, it's very flattering when you come along after somebody and try to claim it." Because I'd been doing this for like 2 years earlier, and I got this like little sheepish message like, "Oh my bad."
Well, there's also Beer and Board Games, which is one of my favorite, YouTube shows. I love those guys.
Oh,
They're
I don't know that
hilarious.
one at all. I'll have to
Yeah,
look that up.
they don't play games that we play at all. They're very much a party game, lots of, like, Cards Against Humanity style games, but they're all super funny dudes, and, like, they're really nice, and, their channel is called Blame Society. They got very popular a few years ago for Chad Vader series where Darth Vader is a manager at a grocery store, and really funny. And the guy Matt Sloan who plays Darth Vader, he actually voices Darth Vader in a lot of video games.
Oh, that's
Like
cool.
he's a voice actor, and they're all writers. Like kind of like C tier writers. They've written for like little sitcoms or sketch shows, or they're kind of like theater guys. They made up this improv game called Rolfing. That's really funny, where you just start to talk and don't know what you're saying, and so they do that a lot. And they're very improv-y and really fun, not annoying, which some comedy YouTube can get a little annoying. And these
So
guys are
it's
comedy
hard to
and
know
they're
when to
not
stop.
annoying. Yeah, yeah,
Hard to
very
know when
good.
to stop. And speaking of, we should stop because this is a long episode.
It's a long episode.
But that's okay. So before I let you go, it is your responsibility to leave us with your gaming words of wisdom.
Gaming words of wisdom. Don't be afraid to cheat to have fun.
It's funny, you are not the first person to say something like that.
Yeah, especially if you're playing solo. Yeah, one of my, I did a video on like, my top 5 advice for solo role playing. And I was like, cheat. GMs cheat all the time. Why do you think they roll dice behind DM screens? Facilitate fun. If you are playing by yourself and you're acting as the GM and the player, just have fun, do whatever you need to do to facilitate your own fun. And if that involves cheating, then so be it.
So everybody, you can find down in the description of either the podcast or the video links to the Dungeon Jive. Make sure you go check him out, what he's doing. If you want to learn about Warhammer Quest, he has a 97-part series that you can watch, or or Shadows of Brimstone,
Shadows of Brimstone. Yep.
250-part series on that.
New
And
stuff coming for Shadows of Brimstone soon.
ooh, new stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I expect to see all of the expansions. How many expansions you have for that game?
I don't know. 50. I don't know. A lot. Too
Yeah.
many.
All right. So, everybody, as always, if you enjoyed the video or podcast, please make sure you like, subscribe, share, do all of those different things. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks all. Well, if it's not a story I want to read, then I don't want to play it. And usually I can, kind of make up a story that I like more on my own with a game that doesn't have a strict narrative.
And he was like, "Oh, I was just joking, man." I was like, "Well, your comedy sucks. I don't know what to tell you."
The just joking defense.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's going to be great evil,
That's right. Good, evil,
and
fighting.
you are a hero, a wannabe hero, maybe. And you're going to get stronger, and you're going to stop
Get
the
some
evil.
loot.
Yeah, and you're going to roll some dice, maybe. And I feel like I've just given you the
That's like 9 out of 10 games.
not Bill. Oh, it's weird. Like I don't know what it is. Like that came from like my dad. I'm named after my dad, and he just grew up just hating the name Bill, and like
Mhm.
that like just like burned into my soul. It's weird. Like why do I not like Bill? I don't know, but boy,
Yeah, I
like
don't like Danny.
oh
Like,
Danny boy,
like
oh
I'm not a Danny at all. Danny's have red hair.